Hi everyone and welcome to The Raw Show with Michael McDonald. I have a very special guest. We have Trinsi joining me today. Thank you for joining me on the show.
Yeah, hi, and thank you for having me here.
From fashion and graphics to photography and branding, she's gone from a hometown across the ocean to the fantastic island of Iceland and now living in Sweden. She can tell us a little more about her experience across different countries and how she's developed new skills to adapt to her life and business in a foreign country. So, I thought we'd start with your background, if that's okay. So, would you be able to share with me and our listeners where you were born and what it was like for you growing up?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm from Brazil, and I think I move a lot. For when I was a kid, I moved from my hometown. I'm from São Paulo, if you have heard about, and then I moved to the south of Brazil. And when you are 11, it's a big change, new friends, new things, everything. But one of the things I noticed quite early, it was I struggle a lot to write. I could read well, of course, and I could write, but like when it comes to writing big essays or stories or everything like that, it was a little bit hard for me, and especially when it comes to all these changes and a lot of things, you start to feel quite stupid when you're a child. Yeah, it was weird, So I start to turn to the visual arts, and I started drawing a lot. I started, all the free time I had, I was drawing and painting or doing something, with visuals.
Yeah.
And then it was like this for quite a long time into, I think, in high school, when we have literature also there. So we had to read a lot of books and write about these books, and what to learn. But then I got this amazing teacher. And once she said, you can talk about the book and express yourself about the book in wherever manner you want to. It doesn't have to be writing. And it was amazing for me because it was like, oh, finally, I don't have to write. Then I start to find ways to deal with that. And it was drawing or doing something. But then one of the books, I dressed myself as half woman, half man to explain about the book,
All right, yeah.
Great. And she said, oh, that was a very creative way to show and all that. And it was, so, it took me a long, long time to realize that you don't have to be a master's in everything, It took me quite a long time to discover myself and say, okay, I don't have to be, a bestseller writing to do something with my life. But of course, while you're in the school and going through all this change, it is difficult to find that balance on the life, and say, okay, if I'm not good in something, that's okay. You can always do something. So it's hard to focus in what you actually know. And that's what I do now. I focus more in what I know and leave what I don't know. I just ask for help, or, if I can, pay someone to do something, I will do it, or just have friends doing something like that.
Right, so it seems like there's a lot of jumping off points, really, but what was it like in terms of trying to adapt what you knew that you could do? So you went from trying to write essays about books and things to, you mentioned dressing up, to share how the book sort of came across to you and what your interpretation was. What other strategies did you use that might appear to be different compared to the conventional way of writing things? What other things did you do? So you mentioned dressing up. Was there anything else that you did?
Oh yeah, mostly drawing. I like draw, and I like a lot of painting. And craftings in general. So every time we would have some free class for crafting in my town, I would ask my mother to sign me up, So I would have all this kind of crafting things. And of course, the drawing, I think it was maybe because it was easier, to have paper and pen on hand, and just try my best, I remember once I was trying very hard to draw faces, you know, and
Hmm.
it was coming out kind of wrong. It's weird, but then and finally I could get something quite similar, you know. To and one of my colleagues on school got my book and and started saying, "Oh, she's an artist," and then this and that. And for a few moments I felt very pride, but then I realized she was being sarcastic, so it was quite
Ah,
hurtful, you
okay.
know. But it was okay, you know. You take with time that you learn that okay, if it's not a good art, it's okay, you can always improve. And
Hmm.
also, like, you're not gonna be, you know, you're not gonna please everyone around
Hmm.
you. So it is some things that comes with time. But yeah, for me, I think the drawing part and painting, it was the most strongest one at that point, you know. Every time
Yeah.
I was like with a notebook doing math or anything else, if I had some time, I was drawing, you know, in some corner and some point, you know, like the
Mm.
covers, everything. It was always with some kind of drawing, like for anything, you know, that I was looking for.
Yeah. Wow. Right. Well, it seems like there was the space to do that. So
Yeah.
there's a massive there's a massive props to your teacher, I guess, for seeing that you were different, but also giving you the space to do that and to be different and to express things in your way. How important would you say it was to allow people to be different, and I guess not be negatively judgmental with them as well, just because they're different? How important would you say that is?
Oh, it's for me, I think it's one of the most important things in life, you know. It's to accept others by what they are, you know, on their own way. Because everyone is different. There is no single person just like as any other. We talk a lot about like when maybe twin brothers and sisters, something like they feel each other or they like the same things, but there will always be a certain point that they are different, or they learn different, or they even like the same music but they will dance different. Something will be different, you know. And along the years I learned that, you know, it is okay to be different. It's
Hmm.
just uh, it's hard maybe to admit to yourself when you're younger and you want to fit on that, you know, in school or work or something like that.
Hmm.
Like we say, you know, I move, and then when I moved to Iceland, it was the same. You know, you want to fit on the society. You know, you want to seem adapted, and then you try things to seem more, I don't know, maybe normal on the eyes of
Hmm.
people. You know, but it takes time until you realize that it's okay if you're not. It's okay if you don't fit on other people's expectations. You know, and it's okay to be yourself. It's always it I think it's a long process, but it's something that I'm always trying to pass also to my daughter, you know.
Right. Yeah.
She's also like this. She likes a lot of visual arts, and we just discovered she has dyslexia. I don't know how to
Mm. Yeah.
dyslexia,
Yeah.
dyslexia, right? And so she was also struggling a lot with school, you know. And but she wasn't struggling the same thing with visuals, you know, and also music, because she learns very fast and she can put together a lot of things around arts, and she didn't understand why. So now we understand why. We explained to her why, you know, the
Yeah.
neurodiversity that she has, and now we can go around of that. She's been amazing, you know. She's learning way better because she understands how to learn now. But also she understands that this part of her that it's with arts or some things, it is a big part of her, you know. But you know, to put this on the head of 10 years old, it's very hard. And then I understand also because I went through the same thing, you know. Going through all this, it's really hard. But then,
Mm.
you know, when you get older, you start to pass by this message, you know. It's okay to be different, just accept others, don't judge others, you know. Like a lot of things that happen during you know, during your life, a lot of things will change, and it's okay, you know. Something that will be different for you will be maybe your area of genius, you know, and you will be, you know, amazing on that.
Yeah. So, I mean, there could be people that are listening to this that might have kids, they might have children that might actually be different, they might have different strengths and that sort of thing. So, what advice would you give to those parents that might have children that might not be conventional? You know, they might have different ways of learning, different ways of expressing themselves. What would you say to those people?
Just embrace it. Embrace the different, and learn with your kids the way they should be learning. So you can be in their shoes, like something like you say, right? Be in their shoes. So you know how to help them, and showing them that it's okay to be like that. If it's some kind of difference or some way that they like to do, or it's difficult or anything like that. If you show them the way and show, I think one of the things, it's to show your strengths and your weaknesses also, because as a
Mm,
parent, the kid sees us as like invincible or something like that. But when you
yeah.
show, see, I had this problem too, I still have problem with this or that. Okay, so my parents is, they are adults and they have problems, so they start to seem like less preoccupied with the things that they can't do it also. Like I said on the beginning, we focus so much time on the things we can't do that we forgot about the things that we can do well.
Mm,
And this takes a lot of times of our life since we're kids. So try to focus, teach your kids the same thing. Don't focus on what you don't know, focus on what you know and what you like and what you think you can, be extraordinary on it. So just try to focus on these things.
yeah. Yeah, I would definitely echo that. I mean, it's almost like if you share the things that you struggle with, it kind of gives them the permission to have struggles as well. Like
Yeah,
if you never show your weaknesses from the outside looking in, you don't have any. And then if
yeah,
someone does have a weakness, then
yeah,
they'll probably feel that little bit worse for it because they
mhm,
think that there are people out there that don't have weaknesses. So
yeah.
how would you balance that then with trying to think of the best way of putting it. How would you balance it with learning and improving? So you mentioned that you do things and then you improve. How do you balance that against this idea of just doing the things that you are good at and finding the things that you can actually do? How would you approach that?
I find like, if, for instance, okay, with writing, that it's my worst part, let's say like that. I do need to write, okay, and I do need to embrace, of course, that I don't have to write as good as a person who maybe write a bestseller, but I know I have to write well enough so people will understand me. So what I do, it's like, okay, I take some time to read a little bit about how to improve those skills, but I
Hmm.
don't take that, to a next level, like, oh, I'm not getting that, I will give up, or, I take a little bit at time, I read, I research about, okay, so I can do like this. I write, I try to write a little bit. Okay, that's it, go to the next thing. Next thing for me, it's seeing, tutorials or anything about photography and visuals, designing and stuff like that. So I go to that part of me, and that's amazing. And so if I can, I would try to write something about what I learned, in visuals, so I can try to use a little bit of that skills. But it's something that of course, I try to improve on the way that I'm adult and I need that, but I don't try to stress out and more on the matters of like, this will take, my energy and will take my confidence and put me down, you know. I try as
Ah,
much
okay.
as I can on the matter. Like, I understand that I don't have now to be the best one in the world in writing. You don't have to, and I always will know something about, but I will know enough, to write someone, like to write to you if I need to, and you can understand me well or something like that, and to write something on my blog, but not enough to maybe write a book or something.
Ah, okay. So it's almost like you accept that you're at a certain level, and maybe you improve, maybe you don't. But
Yeah.
there's this level of acceptance and this understanding of the standard that you're at.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I have a blog and it's not active right now, but I was writing about photography And right now, like, I'm helping out, a co-host about branding webinar. And now that I do have to write, of course, but then, of course, it might not be like the best writing in the world. But one thing, like, I accept that if people like my content and they can understand me, that's enough for me. If someone say, oh, your grammar, you have errors, or, your grammar is not 100%, I would say, okay, I'm sorry if it's not my first language, it's not my greatest skills, but can you understand the content? Yes. Do you like? Okay. If you don't, you can look for someone else who has a perfect grammar. That's it.
Yeah.
It's basically that. I got to accept it. If people like me and like my content, it's for what I am and what I'm showing. And if they don't, it's okay. There's a million people in the world. They could just go and look for someone else.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So I know we are kind of getting towards the more visual side, which is more of what you do. But I'm curious to see what runs through your mind when you do write. So this can be obviously broadened out to what sort of conversations do you have when you're doing something that you're probably not amazing at, but we can make it specific to you with the writing. So what sort of runs through your head, or what conversations do you have when you sit down to write, knowing that it's probably not your strength?
You mean when I'm, okay, let's say, for instance, when I'm putting content together or something like that?
Yeah.
I try my best, the best I can, to do it like as if I'm explaining this to a friend, with easy words and easy terms on the subject. For instance, if it's designing or branding or something like that, I will try to put as simple as possible, just like I'm explaining to a friend who's not on the field, who doesn't understand anything about that. So I just write. I don't think about anything else, like punctuation or anything. I just write everything, and then I go over, and then I read, and then I start to fix here and there what it needs to be fixed. And for me, it's just like, it's more kind of like a conversation. It's like I'm explaining to someone that I know how. Like if you ask, oh, how is your process to make a logo? Okay, my process is like this, and then it's like I'm explaining, and then
Okay.
yeah, and it's the same, like you say. On the end, if they like, they like. If they don't, they don't. That's okay.
Is there an element of like, it feels good enough to you, so you put it out, and then it almost doesn't matter what other people think, because it's not your strength, or you are trying to learn to improve it? How do you go about talking yourself into actually publishing it? Because I know from the things that I've had to do over the years is that there's a big difference between doing something behind closed doors that no one sees, and then putting it out there for everybody to see. So in my head, there's a definite difference between the two. So how do you go about actually talking yourself into writing the blog, but then obviously pressing publish so everyone can see it?
Oh, this is like still a hard part. Like I do have like so many blog posts that I never publish it, just because of the same factor. Like, oh no, if I do it, some people would judge me. This is not good enough or something like that. But then it has been better. Like I said, I'm not publishing a lot on the blog right now, but I am participating in groups on Facebook. So the text is smaller, and a little bit more of conversational. So I'm getting over by that, by participating. So
Okay,
I start to make small parts. Right now I'm trying to put a group together, so I'm starting to put some tips on visual branding. So I will write just a few sentences about that tips, and put there and press go, and that's it. I try to nothing, and sometimes I go over and say, oh, this is wrong. And then I just rewrite, because Facebook or almost any other platform allows you to edit that. So I will edit. and that's it. If someone asks, oh, you edit, I say, yes, I edit because I noticed that this way will be better to explain to you. That's it. I try to
All
not
right, cool.
overthink right now, and doing small steps. But then eventually I want to go back and write bigger posts on the blog.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it definitely comes across like there is a process that you have to go through before you can feel like you can keep doing that. Like you sort
Yeah.
of hit a certain standard. But then, as you mentioned before, is that you've got to accept where you are in order to
Hmm.
take the actions to move forward. So yeah, no, I mean, it's good to see that you're still doing that, because there could be people listening that want to do things better than what they can actually do them. Like
Hmm.
there's this disconnect between what they want to happen and what's actually happening, and that's what's stopping them from doing things or moving forward. And it's good to see that you're able to break things down into those smaller steps.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
with that, what steps did you take in your business to finally become this branding person, this branding expert? So from what I know about you, you started off as a photographer. So would you be able to talk us through your journey from that and then becoming a branding person or branding expert?
Hmm. Actually, I started out with fashion. I was a fashion designer in Brazil.
Hmm.
Since, yeah, the background of drawing and everything, a lot of people, oh, you should draw clothes, and oh, you'll be amazing designer. And okay, and then I got into fashion school after high school, and it was great. It was one of the places that I fit in because I didn't have to write a lot, and the drawing, it was so amazing. I could put anything on the paper. It was so great. So I got a job as a fashion designer on a store, um, and it was a nice experience. But then I ended up moving to Iceland, and
Mm.
it was a small town, and I couldn't really work with fashion. And at that time, internet was quite new for me, and it was not that much of opportunities that it is now to work across just work online and across seas like now. So I stopped a little bit with fashion. Of course, I would always be drawing for me, but I stopped trying to achieve that as a career. So I start to learn graphics, and at that time it was even, I think it was 2005. So I think it was the year that YouTube came in or something like that, or it didn't even have YouTube or something. So it was very hard to find tutorials or some things free on the internet. But I start to manage to learn Photoshop, and
Hmm.
with time this became very fun for me. I say, okay, so I don't have to draw on paper. I can put my creativity here on the computer. And I start doing some things. Fast forward, I start to put together some graphics. If friends need, like in Iceland, they have this small magazine about advertising for the town, when they just talk about like houses for sale, for rent, events that will be happening on the town or stuff like that. And I start to make this small ads when they need the graphics. So it was a way to keep up with my skills.
Hmm.
Uh, Later on, I met a friend who was an entrepreneur also in Iceland, and she was also a photographer, and she started to teach me photography. Say, oh, you're so amazing with the drawing and graphics. If you know photography, you see, would be an add-on to your skills.
Mm,
And
yeah.
so, okay, yeah, amazing. And then I fell in love with photography because it's everything together, what I always loved, the vision, the creativity, put scenarios together, put conceptions together, all that. So I start to work more with photography, and then I move again to Sweden. And another thing, it was like, again, a small town. And I was like, okay, so I will not let this stop me again, like I did in Iceland. And I continue with photography for quite long. But I also knew I had to learn marketing then to be able to survive this business. So I start to learn marketing and social media and all this online part of the business. And it was when I also fell in love with all this, in a combo kind of way. So I start to get some freelancers, like managing social media for other
Yeah.
entrepreneurs, and learning with them and learning all this part. And also, like, I got this amazing friendship with a PR and learning a lot about PR. So I start to work with branding and get few clients on branding. And I really like this because it gave me the opportunity to talk about everything that I really like, the vision, the conception, the drawing, sketch things, talk to the client, trying to put their message with the visuals, in a combo that would make the brand, this amazing experience for clients. So it was something that for me, it's very fulfilling,
Yeah.
in the way
So,
that, yeah, you use all my skills.
yeah, was there anything that stands out for you in terms of like why you had that level of commitment to learning new things? Because you mentioned quite a lot there from traveling and moving and learning new things. What would you say contributed to, I guess, to you wanting to learn new things so that you could do what you wanted to do as well as travel?
Like, I'm a very open-minded person, you know,
Hmm.
so I like to learn a lot of things. Once in Iceland, when I couldn't work with fashion, I was learning graphics and stuff like that. Once I even got to law school because I want to do something, and law was I think, yeah, it was the only subject that it was half in Icelandic and half in English, the complete course. So I went to
Ah,
the
okay.
university to learn law. But of course, law, it's as hard as it is in your language, imagine in Icelandic. So it was a lot of writing. So I gave up on that, but I'm always open to learn, and it was an amazing experience. And then okay, if I can't do that, so I start to learn about beauty too. I went once to learn about, hairdos and makeup and stuff. Uh, and this process of learning also made me learn about myself, and it's the part where I said, it's okay now, because it was the same thing, as I was always focusing on what I couldn't do it, like,
Yeah.
okay, so I gave up on law because I can't write. So I can't write. I will not be anything in life. I don't have like a degree or anything like this. I have a lot of diplomas in a lot of things, from courses, but I don't have this big diploma of master's degree, or something. And I kept thinking about that and trying new things to see what I could fit in my life, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was this process of knowing myself, knowing what I love to do, what I know how to do it well, and what would fit with my life. Because since I became a mother, when you are a mother, everything is different, even though we talk a lot about being equal to men's,
Yeah.
and a lot of women, oh, you have to be equal to men, you can't be like, but it is different, there is a small difference. When you're a mother, you preoccupate yourself about your child and stuff like that. So I was trying to fit some career that I could be a mother, amazing mother, and an amazing in my career. So I try many things. That's why, but I think visuals, the arts, it's always my thing. I love when it comes to art, I can just sit and read or listening to about hours, and I really love that. So it was all the small process, like in moving in Iceland. I moved to 3 places in Iceland, from north to middle, a little bit less north, let's say like that, and then to Reykjavik, that it was the capital. And also all this process moving, it made me realize, okay, I have to have a career where even if I move, I can still do it, So it was something that it it came slowly, but it was a good thing, it became clear now for me.
Yeah, I mean, I can sort of picture how you started off with the family and you had this conversation whereby it was like, right, well, I need something that can fit around the family. I need something that can fit around the other commitments that I have. And then
Yeah.
that sort of brought you to the idea of photography and using the visual side of things to help yourself, but then also helping other people as well. So
Yeah.
what caused the shift into branding then? Because obviously it is a little different. I'd imagine there's quite a lot that's the same, but what caused you to make that leap?
I was talking to a friend and a coach, and we were talking about my skills and what I was doing. And we start by talking about social media. And she said, "I know you're doing this and that about visual." I say, "Yes." And she said, "Why don't you work with branding?" I say, "Well, I do work with branding, but it's not what I, let's say, call myself or something like that. It's not what I pitch myself about." And she say, "Why not?" And it was still, I think, that part of me that it was, you always feel like the underdog. I don't know how if you'd say something like that in UK, but it's kind of like you still feel that you have to be the best one in something to have that title.
Hmm.
Again, like
Yeah.
the same thing with the writing. But then it is good because now, older, I could realize, okay, yeah, she's right. I could work with branding. It's just a title. I don't have to be the best in the world. Of course, we'll always have someone better than me, but my skills are at the point where I still can help a lot of people. I still know what I know, and it is still very, very good. It's just maybe I'm overachieving. I'm trying to overachieve something for me, not for others. So I just exchanged that. Even though I was managing some social medias, I was also doing like the slide graphics and Facebook covers and ads graphics and stuff like that, and Instagram graphics. So I just shift a little bit,
Hmm.
the title, and to write more about branding. That it's what I really like to talk about. It was just a way to shift that thing. I still like, to talk about social media and the strategies behind, but of course the graphics and image, it's all about that too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it doesn't seem like a big jump. It's not like you've gone from one thing to a completely different
Yeah,
industry. So, is there
no.
anything that you could share with us then that could help us with our branding? So, if you imagine someone listening to this is like, right, well, I'm looking for something that can actually help me with the branding. Are there any initial things that you would advise that we do, or is there anything that you think makes the biggest impact in terms of branding that you think you'd be able to share with us?
One thing I talk to the clients also when before we start making the visuals, it's like about the message. Do you
Okay.
have your message in place? And either the person will say yes or no, or yes, and they actually don't have anything in place. For instance, sorry, if you have a restaurant and then you say, okay, I want to be the best restaurant in town. I want to advertise. I want my social media to state that I'm the best restaurant in town. And I will ask you why. That's your message? Yes, no, that's not your message. You have to think a little bit deeper. Why you're the best restaurant in town? Is it because you're the healthier, or you're the cheapest, or you offer the best variety and something? Are you there's some theme, or specialist, or some special thing, like it's a vegetarian restaurant, it's like steakhouse. Oh, we are a steakhouse especially on Argentinian style, something like that. So you have to think deep about your message. What do you want to people talk about you know, on online and offline world? So you state your message. And let's say, for instance, okay, so then your message will be, I'm the best restaurant in town because I'm the healthiest one and I only serve organics. All the
Hmm.
vegetables are organics and the meat, it's like from local farmers. So we also respect and support locals and all that. So this is a nice message, and it's different to put in visuals than it's just I'm a restaurant. So
Ah,
you
right. So,
start.
it's like you look for the things that make you stand out, and then
Yes,
you
your
put that in
unique.
the message.
Yeah, you have to find your uniqueness. why, your why you want to stand out. How are you going to stand out? Why you are opening a restaurant. Why are you doing this? You have to find your why. This is, of course, an example like that. It can be like your store, your clothing store. Why you want to be special? Do you have different sizes? Do you support other kind of things, or do you have special place or mothers can come, and they will have help with their kids while they're shopping, something like that. You have to find your uniqueness, and then we will start with your visuals, and then start by thinking about the style of the place, and take the words that express those styles that you were thinking about expressing, the style, the message, and then we start to think more about, okay, which colors will represent the style, which fonts will represent the style, which photos will represent the style. And one of the things I think could help a lot for someone who's listening, it's take those words, with style. Let's say if you're homemade, vintage kind of baking,
Hmm.
taking these words and researching on the internet about the image that represent that. Then if you're doing, alone, like DIY in your kind of Facebook covers and stuff like that, to be consistent on the social media, just there's Pexels. It's a website. Just go there and find free photos that you can use, to represent that. And trying to find then the colors that will represent that to you. And for instance, like I said, if you're like homemade vintage baking cookies, for instance, and you like, this pastel yellows and pinkish, then you go and take these colors and try to be consistent across all social media, Um,
Yeah, I think it's quite a good thing as well that when you mentioned you've got to see what those words look like. So there's
yeah,
no point in saying that you you're into the vintage and the homemade things, but then you need to find out, okay, well, what what does it look like, or how would you represent it
yes,
in a visual format? There's no point in just saying that you are. You've
yeah,
got to actually get it across in everything that you do. So I think that if someone is listening to this, then you should probably spend a little bit of time trying to get clearer on what your message actually looks like,
yeah,
not from a word perspective, but also from a visual perspective as well. So yeah, thanks
exactly.
for sharing that with us. And what was the name of the place to find those pictures? Would you be able to repeat that for us?
Pexels, I like
Pixels,
Pexels.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
and also there's Pixabay, also,
Ah, okay, yeah.
yeah. So you can find free images, and then the next thing, it's once you find a way to represent, like you say, the visuals of this vintage homemade baking kind of thing, go to Canva. There's I don't know, hundreds and thousands of, I think, layouts there. You can just go to Canva, take this image and take your message and put there, like if you're having a sale, if you're, just want to advertise in somewhere, just go there. I think it's one of the easiest ways right now to DIY a visual branding. Um, it doesn't take place, of course, a lot of graphic designers, oh, we hate Canva because it's taking, like, it's so simple, it doesn't look professional. But for someone who is just starting a business, I always like to think like that. It is a big deal, to pay a lot of money for graphic designs, to a team to put this together. So for a lot of people, it's easier to just DIY for a while, their branding, and then raise the money to pay this team to just go into business already, on negative, because they want to be somewhere. Of course, it is amazing if you can, and if it's something that you like to do, of course. But for a lot of people, they don't want to go into business already on negative on their bank, So what they do, they try to DIY a lot of things. And I like I say, I don't ever judge people, even if it's not amazing or, extremely professional, something. They will always improve with time. People will always see other things different after a few time, after a few years or something like that. But then at least with these tools now, an internet, Canva, Adobe Video, Pexels, and all this, you can at least put a decent thing out there, and start your business, and raise money, achieve your goals, and then go to the next step. It's always like that, you start small and you go to the next step.
All right, Charles. Well, we are nearing the end, so we've mentioned quite a bit in terms of the lightning round questions. So the quick fire questions that I tend to use at the end, you've managed to cover them in terms of resources and tips and things. So it makes for a faster interview, which is very nice. So how would you like others to get to know you a little bit more? So this is your chance to share things like social media platforms and websites and things, Charles. So where could people go if they wanted to find out more about you?
They can find me on social media as Trinsi. I think all my social medias are like that, Trinsi. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and of them. My website is chatrins.com, where I'm now having stock photos there, and actually have few feature galleries that are for free. You can just sign up for the free one and just get there. No worries, there will not be like 100 emails per day doing something, just get there, get your photos, and just you're free to use, no need to tell it's for me, but some mentions I always appreciate, but you don't have to. And I'm co-hosting now a webinar about branding for modern entrepreneurs with another entrepreneur. She has a mother group, so we are talking about that, and now the difference that it makes as entrepreneurs, as a mother, like we are talking, trying to fit the lifestyle, the career, the kids, everything in a combo, yeah, and basically just find me at chatrins.com or any social media at Trinsi.
All right, Charles. Well, I'll definitely put links to things in the description of the episode. So if anyone's listening that wants access to the photos or anything like that, then you can click the links below. And one last question before we finish is, what would you like the world to know about you that it doesn't already know?
I'm just this crazy, creative person, mother, trying to do my best into raising two little human beings into being their best too, and trying to find the ways to make our lives, as special as any Disney movie, but it's just in a creative way and the best way I can.
All right, Chart. Well, thanks for being a guest on the show. Really appreciate you carving out the time, and I'm sure we'll speak again soon.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me, and have a great day.